So what are your thoughts with what the things that were going on this summer with police brutality, defunding the cops? Do you think defunding the police is a good idea? What are your thoughts there?
So I think the narrative around what defunding the police actually means is spewed. And I think in this information age, while people are like, we shouldn't care about that, we should. Because if we're going to organize people and money, we need a message that resonates with people, a message that, people feel like they can get behind. And the word defund the police has a very extremist narrative to it that most people like to fit in the middle because it's comfortable. And so while personally, I feel like, yes, it is a good idea. We should rethink how we look at crime. We should rethink how we view punishment, hiring police officers, which a huge percentage of our police officers come from outside of Nashville. So we're essentially hiring people from other counties to come into our counties and hurt our people and go back and spend their money in their counties. So do I think that we should, I think the way I would say it is re-envision policing. Mm-hmm. Take those funds and invest in programs that can begin to restore communities versus punish them. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of the things that people are being punished for are survival tactics. They're things that if you put someone in a housing project with a bunch of other people that only make $5,000-$6,000 a year and you dump drugs in that area, what do you expect is going to happen? Yeah. The other thing that is kind of odd about that is the people who I see who are so like up in arms about the defund the police narrative are people who live in neighborhoods that probably never have a police ride down their street. Yeah. And so my thing is, if you feel like having police riding around a block or around a street makes you safe, then just have them come park at your house. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go or live in the areas where police are always at and they're targeting people. And so I do appreciate the fact that you highlighted that I'm not going to say it's not the police, because there are some racist cops, and singling out the good police takes the focus off of the fact that police are actually intentionally killing people, black people, unarmed black people. But I am going to say that I think that what we need to think about is, who are the police? You have white boys from Bumblefuck, Tennessee that have never been around black people, that have only seen black. Can I curse?
I'm not going to stop you.
Okay. That have only seen. Sorry.
You do you.
That have only
but
seen.
We're talking about like being yourself and everything.
Yeah.
You can be yourself here.
Okay. They've only seen black people in movies. They've only heard about but they have no experience with black people. And you go and put them into one of the, quote, roughest black neighborhoods, and you expect for them to be calm. You expect for them to know how to communicate with people. No, the first time they see a 6'5" black man that weighs 300 pounds, they're threatened. Mm-hmm. And when you feel threatened and you're carrying a weapon, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to pull your gun. Yep. It's the same thing as if you dump me in the middle of a Trump rally and put a pistol on my waist. I'm going to have my hand on my gun, because I'm going to feel like my life is in jeopardy, because my experiences with white supremacists has not been one that showcases them in a light where I feel like my life isn't going to be in jeopardy. Yeah. So I think it's deeper than just that. And then, like you said, you think about with Breonna Taylor, no-knock warrants. You think about probable cause to be able to pull people over and ask questions later. All of these things are policies. And if these policies did not exist, then we wouldn't have police that feel empowered to do the things that they're doing. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, do I think we need to defund the police? Absolutely. We need to re-envision what it looks like, what punishment looks like, but we don't need to let that be the end-all be-all. Mm-hmm. We need to also make sure that these policing policies are changed. Mm-hmm. Because if we just change the punishment and don't change the policy, what ends up happening, it gets privatized like everything else in the country.
Yeah. Well, that's the other unfortunate thing to this discussion too, is you have prison owners that are obviously incentivized to have full prisons, and they're tied in with these policymakers. And sometimes the policymakers are on the boards of these. I mean, it's insane that would even be like allowed to happen, but it does. And so there's clearly an incentive here to be putting people through the prison system, a financial incentive. And apparently it's a big industry. You know, all of the guards that need to be hired and the food that needs to be made and the health care that goes associated and building the prisons and the real estate. I mean, it's like a massive apparatus in this country. So there is an incentive to be funneling people through the prison system. And and this comes back to everyone's breaking the law. Like to some degree you're going to go over the speed limit. You're going to stop a little bit too late at the stop sign. You're going to stop a little bit too early at the stop sign. You're going to put your turn signal on too late. You should have put it on earlier. You're going to forget to put your turn signal on. You might have a tail light that's out, or, I mean, you can just go down the list. Like everyone's breaking the law. So it really comes down to the people that are enforcing the law. And this is a point in a book that I'm reading now called Cruel and Unusual Punishment by Alex Kirkatanis. And he talks about the complicity of lawyers in the criminal justice system. And this is the point that he makes out or makes in the book really, really well, which is the fact that there's these people, cops and so forth, that are having to make these decisions about which people they're going to get in trouble for breaking the law and which ones they aren't, because we're all basically breaking the law. And you can come back to marijuana, for example. For whatever reason, you have, it kind of being culturally cute on the college campus to be doing weed. And but in a certain community, it's like they're coming in, they're knocking down your door, and they're like doing these no-knock warrant stuffs in certain states. It's absurd. But I wanted to ask you about, defunding the police. This idea that, because yes, defunding the police does not necessarily mean you remove all the funding from the police. Although I think some may be advocating for that in certain areas. I'm not entirely sure. But I've seen a couple of times, at least, the idea of, and this would technically require more funding for the police, which would be fine too if it's for the right uses, the idea of sending social workers along with police, like riding along. And the reason I think that's a fascinating idea, and I don't know, I'm not a police officer, I've never, I just don't know. I'm ignorant when it comes to that. So I don't know if this type of thing would work well or not. But I do have a friend that, an older friend who has personal experience where his wife was like physically abusing. Like he has a scar on his nose and a broken toe, and he has called the cops on her. Usually I feel like it's a little bit the other way around, but he's called the cops on his now ex-wife multiple times. And that relationship is over, thankfully. She was quite a bit younger than he. But twice he called the cops. The cop shows up, and next thing, he's in trouble, And he's a Vietnam vet. Like this guy, he deals with PTSD. Like he's not, and he's the one that's being attacked. Cops come in, and they're just doing their thing, and they're listening to her side of the story. Next thing, like he's in trouble, and he's the one who called the cops. So my point is, having some social workers in the mix, I think would be an interesting idea. I think it could be a good thing.
Mm-hmm, I agree. So we do that now with the Department of Domestic Violence. At one point, Tennessee was ranked extremely high for cases of domestic violence. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, domestic violence is still like the number one reason why people are arrested here. It's domestic charges. And there was actually a counseling section or sector they were trained counselors. Most of them were master's level psychologists. And they were actually going out with cops on runs when there were domestic cases or incidents. And so I think that, there are so many different ways that we can put a Band-Aid on a larger problem. Mm-hmm. But at the core of it is systemic racism. I don't care how you slice it, flip it over, put cheese on it. It doesn't matter if you send 2 social workers out there, because guess what? The social workers are going to be white women, and guess what? They're going to be biased. I have a master's in therapy, and I can tell you that malfeasance and implicit bias exists in therapy just as prevalent as it does in policing. Mm-hmm. And so until we take a step back and address the fact that a lot of the policies that govern the laws that are being enforced are steeped in systemic racism and anti-Blackness, we're going to see this cycle continue to reinvent itself in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
Policing is not the only way Black people are being killed. I mean, Black women are dying at alarming numbers during childbirth. Black children are, being punished and suspended in the school at alarming numbers. And so what happens is the media gaslights one issue and we feel like this is the issue. And we keep going from issue to issue to issue to issue. And like I said with the common cold, we never figure out that we need a vaccination.
Mm-hmm. So at the root of it, you're seeing that still in this country, or especially in this country, in 2020, Black people are not always, but often enough to be called systemically just treated differently in a negative way than a white person.
Always, not sometimes, always. And sometimes it's not intentional. I'll be very transparent. I dated a white guy for like 2 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was a nice guy, but I realized that he would want to have these conversations with me because of the work that I do. And I just would be real with him, like, no, you're a white man. So if you put your name on a piece of paper, you're more than likely to get a call back than I am. That is systemic racism. Your children are more likely to be accepted to college than mine. You are more likely to get a better rate on a home than me. You're more likely to get a better rate on a credit card than me. If you go to the doctor, they're more than likely to listen to you than they are to me. And that is because of solely the color of my skin. I can't pretend to be white even if I wanted to, not on the phone, not in person, not on paper. Like I can't, there's nothing I can do. I'm a Black woman, and no matter how you run into me, you're going to know that. And I was trying to get him to understand, like, you have a privilege that, I don't have. And he's like, well, I went through some hard stuff in life. Well, you know what? You had a 400-year head start.
Mm-hmm.
You had 400 years to be ahead of where Black people are in this country. And now all we're saying is we want what's owed to us, but we just want to be treated with equity. Because we're like, everybody's saying, oh, well, let's treat everybody equal. No. You have a 400-year head start. You're all the way up here. We need equity.
Mm-hmm.
Equity. We need you to understand that, there are some things that have been in place that have caused our people to really be set back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is extremely unfortunate. Yeah, it is, but it's okay. I mean, if it's happening, and it's good to talk about it. Like and it's not okay. I mean, if people are being treated differently anywhere at any time based on the color of their skin or their wealth or like those types of things, I mean, that is not. I believe in a creator God, like that people have dignity, no matter the color, no matter what you do for a job, people have equal dignity. And it's not the experience for people in this country.